Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where I am drinking a lovely cup of tea this evening. It is just a fruity herbal tea, which is delicious. I am reviewing books as per usual and waiting for the rain to come. I have just settled back in after getting back from Pensacola. I had to wash all of my bedding because I just felt like it just needed a fresh wash. I did plan to do that beforehand, like before I left, but I washed it as soon as I got back. But bags are unpacked and groceries are in the fridge now because I had not bought anything before I left, so was scrounging around. And we are continuing to explore the world of books, where that's just what we do here on this channel, isn't it? And we are talking about a book called My Father Always Finds Corpses by Lee Hollis. This is expected publication of May 27th of 2025, and it's approximately 288 pages. Now, I did have this on audiobook from NetGalley, and I want to say it was somewhere around 7 hours and 45 minutes to 8 hours, somewhere around in there. It is considered cozy murder mystery, and fiction. So those are just some of the things. So let's dive into the summary and we'll go from there. With a wryly witted and assured voice and a vastly entertaining cast of characters, Lee Hollis puts a modern slant on the classic murder mystery as a father-daughter sleuthing duo are drawn into a case close to home. You never forget your first corpse. For former child star Jared Jarvis, that discovery was 20 plus years ago, and a lot has happened since he solved a string of real-life Hollywood murders. Now, Jared lives in Palm Springs, where he writes and directs local theater while quietly grieving the loss of his partner, police detective Charlie. Jared hasn't disclosed much about his sleuthing past to his daughter Liv, who has just earned a degree in criminal justice. There's been distance between them since Charlie's death, and Jared's unsure how to bridge the gap. Liv, meanwhile, put her career on hold in order to help her filmmaker boyfriend Zell. His new documentary idea is to track down the surrogate who gave birth to Liv. Skeptical and annoyed by Zell's pressure tactics, Liv goes to confront him at his apartment. But there's no things to break things off because someone has already bludgeoned Zell to death. Jared rushes to Liv's aid, surprising his daughter with his ease around crime scenes, firing off questions like a modern-day Columbo with better hair and wardrobe. Another shock is quite how many people had motive to finish Zell off, including a Russian film professor, a former First Lady, and a sexy Secret Service agent. Together, Liv and Jared comb for clues across the sun-drenched Coachella Valley, growing close again. But while there's nothing like murder to bring a family together, this father-daughter reunion may be short-lived as a killer is on the loose. So, I'm going to go ahead and say it's a pretty low-stakes murder mystery. I think that's where the coziness comes in. Nothing horrific about it in any way. Slightly suspenseful, nothing too crazy. We're not like really running and hiding around corners too much. If it were a movie, there would probably be a couple of jump scares when people like show up behind other people. So that's probably as close to scary as it gets. But Jared seems to be, and it sounds like he's somewhere in his like 50s or 60s. He has lived his life, lived a career. He had started off as a TV personality when he was a kid on a show, and I don't remember what they called the show, but in my brain I was trying to equate it to something, but it sounded like a sitcom, probably like Full House or something like that, or Family Matters. But his character was like the spunky 12-year-old-ish age kid, and I think he was on there for like 6 or so years. So he had a tagline and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, he's a very charming character. His partner, Charlie, has been deceased for the past 10-ish years, and Jared just has not been able to really move on. The way the book describes it is almost as though Charlie's passing was far more recent than it seems to be timeline wise. Maybe because the grieving still feels fresh for Jared. He's just had a hard time moving on, but it seems to be a shadow looming over both him and Liv. Now, the reason Liv, their daughter, and Jared don't really talk a lot anymore is it seems as though when they were both grieving the loss of Charlie, because it was her father too and his partner, they both seemed to grieve independently without each other, and so a rift kind of grew in between them. I do like that this is a daddy-daughter sort of duo. Liv is probably early to mid 20s, so I would say probably, yeah, somewhere around in there, because she's just graduated from college with a criminal justice degree, so I guess I could put her, I know the book says it, but I probably glossed over the age because I just at the time was like, okay, that's, mid 20s. So she's probably somewhere around 24 or 25, somewhere around in there. She has paused her career just for the time being of pursuing anything in the criminal justice field because she has this boyfriend named Zell. Well, I think her best friend Maud doesn't really like Zell all that much. She's like, well, y'all are fine, but you can probably do better. I don't know. There's something about him. So, of course, this is just Maud. But Maud is the type of person who kind of, hates to let go of ex-boyfriends, too. She kind of breaks up and gets back together with some of her boyfriends from her past. So it's kind of hard for her to make any comments on Liv, and her current boyfriend of Zell. Now, I think they've been together at this particular point somewhere between 7 to 9 months. He's just not met her father yet. He's not met Jared yet. And I think it's because Liv is still kind of on the fence whether she's really committed to this relationship or not. So she hasn't brought him around Jared because she's not even sure she's going to be sticking around with him too much. Well, then Zell decides he's figured out his new project. He's figured out his new documentary. He wants to do a documentary on Liv. And she's like, okay, what? Well, she was born through a surrogacy program, and she's never met her birth mother that she knows of, that she remembers. And she does remember her father's telling her a little bit about it, but since she wasn't very interested, they didn't press the issue. And so over the course of these past, say, 25-ish years, she really hasn't thought about it just all that much. So that's what Zell decides he's going to focus his documentary on, is the reuniting of this girl and her surrogate mother, and all the ups and downs and awkward moments and stuff like that. He wants to interview other family members, and he wants to capture their first meeting. Well, as Liv starts to think about it, she's not really on board. She feels pretty uncomfortable about it. So she tells him, she's like, hey, look, I want to hold off. I'm pretty uncomfortable. Give me some time to really think about it, and I'll let you know. So she goes her separate ways, and ultimately she gets a phone call from him, or a text message or something that says, hey, urgent, I need you to come over ASAP. It's urgent. And she's like, oh gosh, okay, going. Pew. Only to find out Zell has her surrogate mother in the room ready for an interview with Liv. And she is blindsided. She's also furious because Zell has really overstepped the boundary from her, from what she had set. She said, I don't want to do this right now. I want to hold off. And he went ahead and bulldozed through that, and he kept trying to make it be oh, well, this could be great for us. Think if we could, what if we get into the Academy Award runnings or something like that? And she's just no, this is my life. This is not, I do not want to put this into a film anymore. So she does this interview with this woman who's supposed to be her surrogate, but then things start to go wrong because now the children of the surrogate are coming to find Liv. The daughter of the surrogate, she is jealous already of Liv. She is absolutely jealous of Liv. She's worried Liv's going to try to take her mom's house or inheritance or step in and be the daughter she always wanted or something like that. And then there's the son, Dale, who seems, I think he's always on the verge of a get-rich-quick scheme, because he approaches Liv with the interest of meeting her father, Jared, so he can put his toes into the Hollywood realm and strike it rich that way. Use his connections and things like that. So really skeezy sort of stuff, because these people don't even know her, and yet they're already, like, literally the very next day accosting her because they found out their mother went and talked to this girl. So wild. Just these people are wild. And I mean, Jared still lives very comfortably. Liv, she seems to also be pretty comfortable in her lifestyle as well. And these individuals, they seem to, they kind of feel like mooches in a lot of ways. They're like, oh, we now have a rich relative, even though I don't know if you really call a surrogate daughter a real relative, but these kids think that they can leverage this relationship until Liv goes to confront Zell, and Zell is deceased on the floor of his studio. He has been bludgeoned to death, and Liv was going over there to break up with him after what he had done, and she just could not really get over it. The trust was broken, and she just felt like it was time to end it. So this is where the mystery begins. Is now Liv is, of course, she's very upset that, of course, he's deceased, but like, it's more like, why would someone do this? Who did this? She's very curious. Of course, that's where this criminal justice agrees. Now, yes, she's heartbroken, but she had also kind of in her brain already broken up with him. But I do think it's still pretty sad for her. And now Jared, his little secrets coming out of when he was younger, used to do a bit of amateur sleuthing, and even though he was married to Charlie and would maybe stick his nose in a little bit, this is the first story in the series, so I do expect it to be a series, but there's no previous cases for us to refer back to that I'm aware of, and so all these characters are new, but they do reference what Jared has kind of done in the past. There's no books to actually fill in those gaps, but I think that's where some of those, like, just connection points were kind of missed, is because there are no books to go back and find out more about these relationships that we walk into the middle of. We never get a lot of, like, backstory for what kind of happened in the past. We just get a brief recap, and then we move forward. It's fine because it's cozy and it's, like, again, low stakes, but it would probably also be beneficial if maybe in a subsequent book we do dive a little further into some of these relationships. Like, how is Jared best friends with a former first lady? I'm just curious, but I'm like, I'd like to know. But I do find it's a pretty interesting book. I also question, sorry, little Leo was crying at me just a little bit. I question the title of the book because it says my father always finds corpses, but I don't even remember him finding corpses. Liv was the one who ran across Zell. So I don't get the title too much. We do talk about this little Secret Service agent who is attached to the First Lady. He is her bodyguard. So now this First Lady is trying to hook Jared up with this slightly younger, kind of hunky Secret Service agent who has a penchant for Taylor Swift. But Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to try to dive too much further into it because I want to leave the mystery a mystery to be solved. I'm not going to give you any additional pieces to try to figure it out. You'll have to read it yourself. But until next time, I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this journey. Little Leo is so upset with me right now. He wants some attention, so I'm about to go give it to him. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.